are now standing in the front of the tree of Corrie ten Boom, as well as her father Caspar and her sister Betsy, another very famous righteous Gentile because of the movie The Hiding Place. This, by the way, is a carob tree. An interesting story. This is probably the smallest tree in the Avenue of the Righteous. An interesting fact, they had to replant a tree by the ten Boom family because on the day that Corrie died, the tree that they originally planted for her died as well. The ten Boom family they detested what the Nazis were doing in their hometown of Haarlem, Holland. And so they became very involved in a large underground movement that was involved in rescuing Jews and either bringing them elsewhere or just keeping them hidden throughout the war, even hiding Jews in their own home. They got false documents for them, they got them to safe houses, and even transported them out of the country. Eventually, they were betrayed by somebody who knew them well, and Caspar and Betsy and Corrie were sent to work camps. The father, Caspar, died within 10 days of being arrested. Corrie and Betsy lasted a lot longer. Eventually, Betsy died in the camp as well, and Corrie was released about 2 weeks after Betsy died. An interesting fact, when Corrie was released, if she had not been released when she was, all the other women from that camp were moved to a death camp shortly after Corrie was released. When Corrie was released, she went back to her hometown of Haarlem and stayed there until the war ended. After the war, she became an international renowned speaker, sharing her experiences from the war and just asking people never to let this happen again. An interesting story about Corrie that she often shared when she was speaking was on forgiveness. There was a very, very, very violent guard in the camp that she and Betsy were at, and this particular guard took great pleasure in beating the prisoners, and he beat Betsy so badly one time that Corrie was just so angry. If not for her sister's influence, I don't know what Corrie would have done. But after the war, one time when she was speaking, somebody came up to her. She had been speaking about forgiveness, and this man came up to her and reached out his hand to her and said, "I was one of the guards in the camp where you and your sister were." And she looked at him and she knew immediately it was the one who had beaten her sister so terribly. And he says, "I have given my heart to God, and I know that He has forgiven me for the terrible things that I have done, and I am asking you to forgive me as well." Corrie struggled with this. It seemed like forever. The man had his hand out to her. Here she had just given a whole presentation on how we need to forgive those that are so cruel to us. And she prayed a prayer and asked God to help her. And in that moment, she knew what to do, and she reached her hand out and shook his hand and said, "I forgive you as well."